My name is Jared James. If you aren't familiar with me, I'm best known as an entrepreneur that gets the unique opportunity to coach and train agents and brokers in the real estate world and speak at conferences in front of thousands of people. But it wasn't always that way for me. What separates me from so many others is that I've actually done everything that I want you to be able to do. For that reason, this is the place to come if you want to learn the strategies needed to succeed in today's marketplace. This is the Jared James Today Show. Hey everybody, Jared James here, and welcome to episode 20 of the Jared James Today Show. As always, guys, make sure you give it a thumbs up here, leave a comment, share this with somebody that needs it, and subscribe on the channel because there's more videos like this coming. Today's episode 20, I'd like to talk about, can you be an introvert and be a natural salesperson? And this is an interesting topic. This shouldn't take a lot of time today, but it's something that keeps coming up. And I'm covering this because the truth is, I'm in sales, you're in sales, pretty much everybody's in sales. If you're a stay-at-home mom, you're in sales. You're trying to convince a kid why it's in their best benefit to do what it is you want them to do, you're in sales. And so I've always been, though this has been kind of shocking to people, but I've always been a natural introvert. If you've gotten to know me or you've met me somewhere or you've seen me on stage, or you watch my videos, a lot of you find that very hard to believe. My wife used to say that being married to me was like being married to Larry David, just because the way I view the world and the way I would I was just kind of different, behind the scenes. And I am, let me know if any of you can relate to this, I am equal parts love people as much as I'm equal parts hate people. Like, I need my alone time. And how many of you can relate to that? And how many of you have ever actually questioned, like, why am I in sales? I'm an introvert. I try to get away from people. And this is the struggle that so many people have had. And so I posted, I want to say a month ago or so, it was either on my Facebook or my Instagram, I posted something about being an introvert. Can anybody relate? And the thing just went wild with the number of people who were going, yes, yes, yes. And they felt like they were outed, like they weren't supposed to be. And yet you find it so common with people who are in front of people on a regular basis. You find it with entertainers and comedians and, salespeople and these kinds of things. And yet, when you start to read the studies and you look what's out there, a lot of studies are showing that introverts can actually do better in sales, which is kind of crazy. And the reason for that is that introverts more naturally listen than they do talk. If you've ever been to one of my seminars or something where I'm teaching lead conversion, one of the things I talk about when trying to overcome an objection or do one of these things is, are you actually listening to your clients, or are you just waiting for them to stop talking so that you can start talking? Okay? That's a very crucial point. Are you actually listening to what they're saying? Or, and by the way, that right there will tell you whether you have an objection or a delaying question, but that's an episode for another day. But are you actually listening, or are you just waiting for them to stop talking so you can start? Introverts more naturally listen more than talk, okay? So that can be a great thing from a sales perspective. Another reason why it's actually not a bad thing to be an introvert when you're in sales is because introverts just naturally loathe fake people. It is difficult for an introvert to be too salesy or to act like they're into something it's just not within our nature, which can actually be a very good thing because now you really believe in what you're selling. You really believe in what you're doing. You believe in the fact that it's in their best benefit to work with you because you're able to kind of see the world in a way and see other people in a way that you know that it's in their benefit to work with you opposed to working with them. And so if you're watching this and you're in sales and you're an introvert, know that you're not alone and it's okay. You don't have to fake being an extrovert, okay? So I want to go over really quickly here just 3 tips for introverts in sales, okay? If you're an extrovert and you're watching this, just bear with me or flip to another episode. But if you know an introvert, share this with them because this is something that a lot of introverts need to hear. So 3 tips for being in sales when you're an introvert. Number 1, be aware of the switch. Okay? Now, I call it the switch because I said earlier that a lot of you who watch me would not believe that I was an introvert. Like, you've seen me at a get-together, you've seen me on stage, you've seen me on these videos. I'm not faking right now. Like, this is 100% my personality. But what you find is that there's this switch. You tend to learn when it's okay to be in that natural state of that introverted nature, quiet to yourself. That's how you recharge. That's how and you start to learn when it's time to flip the switch. And it's not, and again, I said this before, but it's just so true, it's not an act. Like, introverted people don't act extroverted, they just have that switch. And it's like any kind of emotion that you learn to feel, like, think of it like this. When you are depressed, where do you go? Like, where are your shoulders? How do you talk? Do you go slower or faster with the way that you talk? Do you talk higher pitch? Do you talk lower pitch? What are you generally listening to? What are you generally, what do you, like, what's in your head? What music are you, like, all of that stuff. You learn how to go to that state of mind, right? And it's no different when I now walk into a party or a networking thing or get on stage or the camera goes on or something like that, that I am now naturally able, without even thinking of it, to make that switch. But that took me actually being aware of when that time was, because what happens is if you don't start getting really cognitive of this, you don't start thinking about it and starting to learn when it's time to naturally switch, what happens is that sometimes in a situation when you should have made the switch, you will still naturally be introverted, and now you'll turn people off. Because introverts, in situations like that, when they stay introverted and don't make the switch, they now come across as arrogant, quiet, like all these other things, and that is not a good thing from a sales perspective. So start paying attention to it, learn to make the switch. Second thing, just love people. You know, I made the statement I did earlier, and I said, you know, I'm equal parts love people as much as I'm equal parts hate people. And it's kind of funny and it's kind of a joke, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, sometimes people are the last thing I want to be around, but you're missing the first part of that, which is I'm equal parts love people. I would prefer that I didn't, if I'm just being 100% honest, because it would just make my life so much easier. I wouldn't care about people more than they care about themselves. I wouldn't, like... But you need to go back to that and focus on that love that you have for people in order to learn to make the switch, because you have gifts and talents that help other people. Even if you're not me, if you're in sales and you have gifts and talents that make it a better experience when they work with you. There is a disadvantage if they're not working with you. I have gifts and talents that benefit many of you. And if I went to my natural nature all the time and just stayed like a hermit crab in some cave far off somewhere and grew a 7-foot beard and, you know, whatever, then my gifts and talents would not be used with you, and now you'd be robbed of that, just like you could be robbing other people of your gifts and talents. You know, one of the greatest pieces of advice that I ever got was from a mentor of mine when I first started getting into what I do for a living now, and I first started writing books and doing videos and whatever, and I started going places and going to events, and people started recognizing me there, and I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Like, it's just me. Like, what is this, right? And when I was doing this, people started coming over and wanted me to sign books and wanted to take selfies and do pictures, and I was so quick to say to them, like, hey, it's just me. Like, relax. Like, we don't need to take a picture. Like, that's just weird. Like, that's... And so I brought this up to this mentor of mine who had also had a lot of eyeballs on him and, you know, had built kind of a following. And he told me to stop doing that. He said, because everyone needs a voice in their life. And he said that when you discredit your voice in their life and you say, no, I'm not that, I'm just Jared, I'm just whatever, you actually steal that voice's ability to speak into their life and get them to do things. Meaning that we all have voices in our life that someone else can say something that means nothing to us, but someone else says it, like me or like someone else in your life, and you're like, done, I'm doing it. Because they have that place. And when you rob that and say, no, or you rob that and you just stay introverted and you don't use those gifts and those talents, you actually rob them of that voice. You rob them of that ability to actually share in those gifts and the talents that you have for them. Okay? And so you want to make sure that you love people enough that you're willing to make the switch and you're willing to learn how to go to that extroverted nature, even if you're more naturally an introvert. And the third point I'll tell you, and this is so crucial, like I can't explain this enough, is make sure that you get your quiet time, okay? Now, this is one where you've got to be careful who you marry. You've got to be careful, like, what you surround yourself with. You have to, like, I remember when I got married, and I actually said to my wife, like, you know what you're getting into, because I'm kind of, like, very driven, but then I also need my own time. Like, my favorite place in the world is a hotel room by myself. Like, laptop open, game on, room service. That is how I recharge. They say that you know a natural introvert from an extrovert based on what happens when they get off of a stage, when that energy is there. A natural extrovert, when they get off of a stage and they're talking to somebody, is like rearing to go. They are energized by the fact that they just spoke in front of this audience. A natural introvert, like myself, like if you ran into me at the airport after I was done doing an event, just shuts down. Like, it drains them. They're absolutely done. And so I needed to surround myself with people that understood that in order for me to be my best self with you, in order for me to be able to use those talents and gifts, in order for me to, I recharge by being alone. Like, and if you're surrounded by people who aren't okay with that or who give you trouble with that, you either need to recreate the expectation, okay? Or you need to look at the people who are around you and start making some changes, right? If you have friends that understand that, if you have, that is just who you are. Everybody's different. Like, everybody recharges differently. And again, when we're not able to recharge and actually work that natural introverted nature, we rob other people of the gifts and the talents that we have, but we also drain ourselves because we're not able to naturally be who it is that we were called to be, that we were created to be. And so you want to be careful with that, okay? So what am I telling you guys in this episode? It's okay to be an introvert and be in sales. You just have to understand that it's a different thing. You got to understand that there's different ways that you recharge, and you've got to set up the foundation around you that allows you to operate at your fullest potential and recharge and be okay with that, okay? So guys, if you enjoyed this, like this, comment, subscribe. As always, guys, go to connectwithjared.com and send me messages on all the different social platforms and all that kind of stuff, guys. Thank you so much for watching. It truly means the world to me. Have a great one, guys. I'll talk to you soon. Hey there, you, and I am talking to you in particular, person that made it to the end of my video. It means the world to me. But if you made it to the end, I'm hoping that you'll take a second and subscribe right here. Make sure you share that with all your friends, by the way. They're in real estate, sales, entrepreneurial, whatever it happens to be. By the way, if you're looking for a speaker for your upcoming event, click right here to get some more information. And as usual, if you have a question you want me to personally respond, just connect on social. You can click right over here and see all the platforms I'm on. I hope to hear from you soon. Have a great one.